Your drink, that's like, it's not even, there's no coffee in that.
Yes, there is. There's a four shopping.
All right, appreciate everyone being here. We're kicking off game week, and then we'll have stuff on Monday and Tuesday again.
So I woke up at 4 this morning, and Jarrett drove me to UNMC. I had a little surgical procedure on my ears, nothing serious. So if I can't hear you, and I'm patient, or I'm still loopy from the anesthesia, please forgive me. But I do want to say thank you to all that they've been working with me for a while, and just the ability to be able to connect with the people at UNMC and Nebraska medicine, obviously for our players, but for an old guy like me too. We're just unbelievably grateful, just the way that they've worked around our schedules. So I just want to make sure I thank all the people that have done that. I want to make sure I say good luck to the volleyball team tonight. They start against Pitt. We did our mock game yesterday, so we took over the training table at like 4 o'clock, and Becca Alec came walking in, and she's like, "Oh, Coach, is this closed?" I'm like, "This is open for you anytime, Becca. You know, lifter of the year, unbelievable person, spirit." I'm such a fan of that team, and all of our teams, but that team, and so excited for them tonight. And I won't be able to go tonight, but I think my daughters have me lined up for Sunday for the Stanford game. Just want to take a moment to thank the Chiefs. This is going to be an unbelievable experience for our guys. You know, for me, just like, hey, let's get to the game. We'll worry about the game. But being in an iconic NFL stadium, I was there. I've only been there once. That was during COVID, and so it was the first game that there were fans there. I think there were like, I don't know, somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 fans. It sounded like 100,000 fans after coaching a bunch of games in front of no one. But and really, I believe they have some of the best grass in the National Football League, and they were really one of the impetuses behind us believing that we could grow grass here. You know, there was sort of a thought of, you can't grow grass practice fields, and it was like, well, how do the Chiefs do it? And so just being able to get out there, Coach Reed's been a mentor, to me. Tammy Reed, his wife, has been a mentor to Julie as she was a young coach's wife. And so obviously I don't know that we'll actually necessarily see them. I think Terry Braden has everything lined up. Terry has everything lined up for like a Chiefs reunion. But for us, just to have the chance to do that, playing a great game against Cincinnati, and for our players, but also for our fans. I know we went to the bowl game, and that was an awesome experience. But I know Christmas time, New York City, not everyone could go be a part of it. So now to turn around and have this experience, I have to thank Troy. Obviously Indianapolis would have been a great opportunity, but coming to Kansas City, I think, is going to be absolutely unbelievable. So great experience for our guys to go to Arrowhead, but also hopefully great experience for our fans. So we're excited. A couple injury updates, if that's okay, before I get started. Gibson Pyle hurt himself last week, had surgery yesterday. He'll be out for the year. Okay, not an ACL, but a knee that just, we're going to have to go in and take care of. Mario Buford is right now out in the concussion protocol. We hope to have him back. Roman Mangini is out right now. He had off-season groin surgery, and so as part of that surgery, sometimes you have some scar tissue move around. He should be back within a couple weeks. Pierce Mooberry out with a hamstring strain. Gabe Moore still out with a hamstring strain. And Vincent Shavers is day-to-day as he's dealing with a kind of a lingering hamstring strain. But if you guys know V9, I wouldn't count him out. So, anything else, Keith, I should cover? All right, with that, I'll see what questions you guys have.
Is there a procedure scheduled?
Don't worry about me. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, no. Thank you. You know what? I'm sorry. Thank you. I have like just some pressure issues in my ear or whatever. I don't know. So they had to go in and it was simple. So, but it's been a great excuse sometimes. I'm like, I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say? So now I can apparently be able to hear clearly. So I got no excuse. So.
Coach, I'm curious about the podcast. How did that kind of get started?
It was my idea. I do a lot of podcasts. People ask me, and I'm happy to do them. And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, well, why aren't we doing one? My goal was to have it kind of in the off season, kind of leading into the season. It just took a lot to get it going because obviously we want to do it right. And so it's kind of delved into this season. But this is the new world of college sports. It's like, one of my goals is to be able to do stuff with our players and hope that we can get them some NIL money from doing an interview with us. But I think, nationally, I think having a brand and having people, just even yesterday, like we put that out, and I don't know, it's really hard to watch yourself. A lot of you guys do it. I don't know how you do it. Like I was like, just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But but to be able to have it be Husker centric, but still touch other topics. Hopefully, we can just continue to put the University of Nebraska and our football program out there for people to see, and I think for recruits, there's. I think I've said this to you guys before. If you have not gone to that second floor, you got to go walk through it. You guys, they should schedule probably something to show these guys this. Like our ability for recruits, our ability to help you build your brand and be able to. Content. These things are really important to this generation of guys, and they're really good at it. And so we took all the old football offices, right? So where I used to sit is now offices that for Husker Vision, and so we just think it's an opportunity for us to go out there and do some stuff. I already do a bunch of media stuff anyway during the week. Sometimes people don't even see, so we just have to schedule out. We did a lot of stuff ahead of time. I have to schedule out probably an extra hour of the day now, one day a week to make sure we do this at a high level. I think you'll see me doing some regular. It's not ready to announce yet, but some regular mainstream media hits also. And again, we have to win on the field. We all get that, right? Like you have to be relevant on the field. But in a world where it's like, is it the SEC? Is it the Big Ten? Is it this? Is it that? Is Nebraska? Having us out there is really, really important. Having us out there for recruits is really important. So, so that was kind of the thought. Like, hey, let's go out there and do that. Hopefully get some interesting guests and then just do it year round. So we'll do it until if no one watches it, then we'll cancel it. But if people watch it, then we'll do it, and I'll do the best I can with it.
What concerns you most about Cincinnati's team? Like, what do you think their biggest strengths are?
Well, I think Scott. First of all, Scott Satterfield's a winner, right? So like, you go back to when he was the OC at FIU. He was with one of my best friends, Jeff Collins, and he under Mario Cristobal, and he got in there and they flipped it, right? He's someone I've known a long time because we kind of became head coaches around the same time. I've been a lot of things with him. He goes to Kentucky. He does a great job. Louisville. Goes to Louisville, does a great job. He comes here to Cincinnati, and I have a long history of Cincinnati. You go back, like, there's been a lot of people who've won a lot of games at Cincinnati. It is a place that should win. It's in a football hotbed. They have a great commitment. And then I think you look at the players, right? Sorsby's an excellent quarterback. And, in our camp, we don't really have anybody that's like him. Dylan's not a runner like him. Their ability to run speed option, run zone read, drop back and throw, attack the pocket, quarterback draws. The ability to have a running quarterback, I think, is something that we have to be really focused on. There's a lot coming out of their camp about how much they love their receivers and how excellent they are, and so we obviously haven't seen them all. Now we've gone back and watched. Hey, here's La Tech film, here's Lindenwood film. We've done all the work, but Scott, they've never not scored. And then you get into like their version, that Big 12 Iowa State. Coach Heacock at Iowa State really revolutionized a lot of college football. He's one of my favorite coaches, and so Tyson Vate comes out of that tree, and so it's that 3-2 zone coverage. And they're saying they're doing some different things, but like that zone coverage, keep everything in front. It takes a maturity at your quarterback position, and they, Corleone, the nose tackle's elite. They brought the Tawi in from Wisconsin, so they've got good players. They've got a history of winning, and a lot of things in the first game come down. As they come down. Like, I can't wait for the games tomorrow. I'm going to make a cut up and show our guys. Like, it's going to come down to special teams. It's going to come down to tackling. It's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to mistakes early on. So we got the mock game last night. Probably the best mock game I've ever been a part of in terms of the level of communication, guys communicating on and off the field. So I was really pleased last night. But I think that when I think about Cincinnati, they got off to a hot start last year. And, he's coaches in, I don't know if it's year 2 or year 3. This will be year 3. Same place we were, right? You get off to a hot start, and then you have some tough losses. But the guys stuck around. They didn't all transfer out. They came back, which means they love Cincinnati. They love Coach Satterfield, and they're going to be a formidable opponent. The Big 12 is an excellent conference, and so we'll have our work cut out for us.
A couple of names among your more high-profile newcomers and where they landed on the depth chart. I want to ask you about Nwaneri and being atop that position at DN. And then Pritchett also, and where he slots him up tackle.
Yeah, so Will and Cam are, it might be tomorrow that Cam's the starter, Will's the starter. I think they both we have packages where they're both playing. One of Cam's great gifts is his ability at 265 pounds to go inside and rush as a 3 technique. I think he's got you go back and look 2 years ago, his sacks, a lot of them were like he retrace and make a sack. Cam's unbelievably active. Will is, at 265 pounds. We had the spring game, and then we test guys that next week, which is probably not, after 5 weeks of our spring, the best time to run. And he was 4.62 at 265 pounds. Like, his ability to come off the edge, speed to power, he is a completely different football player than when he first got here. He's a completely different football player than the spring. And he's getting better and better and better. And he's really been committed to the team and to, doing what the team does. And so, Pritchett, he's not the starter. We haven't announced a starter, but if we played today, he would not be the starter right now. He's still working on it. And I think the one thing I want to make this, I think as I've talked, I think people are extrapolating out that it's like off the field stuff. It's not. It's the performance, right? Like, and he, unbelievably talented, good player, but a lot of false starts, a lot of mistakes. And when you have a quarterback like we have, it's not about the talent, it's about the production and the dependability at that position. If you block the wrong guy, I don't care how talented you are. I'm not saying he's blocking the wrong guy all the time. It's just where he's at right now. So that competition will go up through the game. As you guys know, you get out there in the first game, sometimes you think someone's going to do A and they do B, and then you adjust over the first 3 games. It's why the NFL has preseason games. It's why college football, we have non-conference games. But I like Elijah very much. I like the way he's trying to get better. But we have an offensive line that is really, really good. And they demand accountability from each other, and you cannot make missed assignments. You cannot false start in the red zone. You cannot get holding penalties. And so we're just working through a lot of that football stuff right now with Elijah. But it is not, hey, this guy's a bad teammate, or this guy doesn't do this right or that right. It's none of that. He does everything we ask. It's just the dependability at that position. And I'll just say it one more time, and again, I sometimes say this for recruiting, to be quite honest. A lot of places, they have 1 protection and 3 runs, and that's not us. It would not be fair to Dylan to have 1 protection. We've got multiple things, and you have to be able to think on the fly. It's an NFL-based, it's not the NFL. In the NFL, we have way more plays than we have, but it's an NFL-based college offense. And so, but today, I'm hoping Elijah's better today than he was yesterday, and so we'll bring him along. But I think the number that he's way more talented than the rest of our guys is not fair to the rest of our guys. It's kind of what we deal with here sometimes. We just don't give our own guys enough credit, and we have to win enough that changes. But we have some good players playing on the offensive line. And same thing at right tackle. Like, if we played today, I think Teddy'd probably go out there as a starter, but Tyler's right on his heels. Gunner's swinging both sides. Gunner's inside, especially with Gibby going down. Gibby was having a heck of a camp, man, Pyle. So, we're rotating a bunch of guys.
Hey, Coach, you had TJ Lateef, number 2 at quarterback. What did you see from him to kind of ascend to that? Because I think that, I don't want to say it was a surprise, but to see him have the camp he did and kind of lock down that number 2 spot definitely jumps out.
And let me say this. We get into this ball game, and Jalen goes out there to play. Jalen's going to go win the football game for us. That's how we feel about Jalen. Smart, tough, competitive. TJ brings, to be quite honest, he brings an element of being dynamic running the football. So, you do get that, kind of what I talked about Sorsby, you do get that. Like, hey, things break down, he can run, he can move. He is just a really well-coached young man coming in here. The guys out at Orange Lutheran, his training, his family, they've done a great job with him. The players respect him. He's really, really smart. It's not one of those deals where we're dumbing down the offense for him. Now, his decision-making at the college football level, he hasn't played at this level yet, so there'll be some growing pains. But Jalen's right there. But I think TJ's had an unbelievably good camp. And I liked what he did in the spring, and it was very clear, hey, he's 3, and he's just ascended into that 2 spot. So, I think the sky's the limit for what TJ Lateef can do. He just wait for his opportunity, and I do like his preparation. The guys like him. I said to him the other day, we were walking, if something happened and you had to go play, and you change your preparation, that means you're not preparing hard enough right now. And I feel very good about him that wouldn't happen. He's preparing right now as if, hey, I got to be ready for my moment. So I'm excited about him.
Is the kicker competition more of multiple guys being consistent, or just nobody separating?
Yeah, I think as a base rule for where we are right now, and again, we're lucky to have Brett Maher here. You have to remember now, Brett kind of came on in the middle of camp last year and kind of ascended into a full-time role. And then he wasn't even able to travel to the games with us early on last year. Like Ohio State, we go out there and we bang the 54-yarder. John makes those 2 kicks. It was really one of the first away games that Brett was able to travel to. And I remember we had the ball, we had that tough call down the left sideline, and then I was like, hey, what do you guys think? He'll steal 5 yards. And Brett's like, yeah, he'll make it. And he went out there. So I think Brett being around has really helped the guys. I think if we went out there today, you'd probably see Kyle go out there. I think we're going to continue that through next week. I've never heard what X said before until he started saying it when he got here, the 33, 33, 34. So we're depending on Gallic, we're depending on Camden. Camden's an excellent holder. I mean, that's a thing that many people won't really notice. I wouldn't have noticed until Brett kept saying to me, like, hey, Matt, this guy's an excellent holder. X kept saying that to me. But I think all three guys have done a nice job. I think we're really consistent out to the 30-yard line. So, 48-yard field goal. Once we get outside there, we're still working through all that. We went out there last night. The wind was blowing, and we made big kicks last night, and both guys did. So Johnny Hull's still coming off that injury. Tristan's still coming off that injury, and so I think getting confidence in their legs too is an important piece of this.
Seen from sort of the guys who are on the second line in the secondary, Rex Guthrie to be in the position he is, Caleb Benning, the depth you have going into the season.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it very real. Rex Guthrie is a Big Ten starter at safety, and as soon as he decides he believes that, he's going to be excellent. It just has to play. And when he starts playing, he's a 4'4", 4'5" kid. He got into Princeton and Harvard. He's smart. He likes football. He's just young. He had a was it the first game of his senior year? The guys covered recruiting where he broke his leg in the first game of his senior year. So much so that I remember his coaches called and they're like, hey, we understand you guys are probably going to pull it. I'm like, no, we're not going to pull it. Like, it's still okay to do things the old school way where you honor your word. And but I say that to say, like, he's been, like, working his way back, right? Like, so, like, when you have your legs snapped like that, it's hard to go out there and throw your body in the piles. And I've seen that from him. So I'm really excited about Rex. I think at the corner positions, like, I think Amari Sanders is a FBS starter, power, 4-star. He's the guy that started football late, so he's kind of coming into his own. Jeremiah Charles is probably the best athlete on the field when he's out there. I mean, the guy scored points in the Big Ten track meet, and he's bigger, stronger. Going back to UNMC, like, they went and did some studies on him and found they did some procedures so that he could eat a little bit more and start putting on some weight. And I love where Jeremiah is at. We've talked about Jameer Khan. Jameer backing up Malcolm. I think he can go out there in the second series and take reps, and no one would blink. We wouldn't say, oh, we better play this. He's a competitor. Caleb is an excellent football player. He's kind of like the old school, like, anybody ever know Chip Hilton? If I say Chip Hilton, does anybody know who Chip Hilton is? Claire B? Damn. Great. You know? Yes, sir. So great old books about Chip Hilton and, three-sport athletes back in the 50s and 60s. My grandfather used to give me the books. But, like, that was Caleb. He's playing point guard on the basketball team. He's, he can play tailback. He can play what. There's sometimes, we'll watch him like, man, he looks like a tailback out there. It looks like his dad out there. Although I never saw his dad play. But, so I'm assuming, he tells me he's good, so I'm assuming he was good. So that's a joke. But Caleb's really, really smart. I think the biggest thing with Caleb is, again, they're just young players, right? Like, getting into the football shape to be able to run and hit all day and fly around, and then, striking and making the plays. But, Caleb got into the bowl game, and he went out there and just competed. On that last drive, like, we got some guys hurt, and Caleb went out there and played well. Donovan Jones is a starter in my mind. It's just, where he is, and so we have some different packages. So I think you'll see Donovan play a ton, and when he plays at a high level. So I don't know if I'm forgetting anyone there. Is there anyone I'm forgetting that you want me to talk about? So, like, that line, the challenge we've had, and even the guys behind him is like, hey, you have really 4 to 5 seniors starting. Don't waste this year. Wait, I hope I get a turn. Like, get better for when your time comes, but we'll need them. And but I really like Rex. I really like Caleb. I really like those corners. Jameer I've talked a lot about. So we feel very confident with them. They just have to play. One of the hard things about the secondary, in my opinion, is there has to be a time when you play corner and you're kind of coming up where you get torched. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, I'm okay. All right. We had a kid, Tavion Young, at Temple. We played UCF. Brett Perryman, first-round draft pick, torched him, ran post corner curl. And Tavion came back the nenext week and then went on and played 9 years in the NFL because he realized, yeah, okay, I can play with confidence. And so that young group, I think that's what they have to do. But we have a great first team, and I think that they're going to play really well. We're significantly better, I think, in terms of the way we're playing, technique-wise, communication in the secondary than we were last year. And I just think it's just the familiarity of them all being kind of year two with John.
I'm sure that every coach wants to be able to run the ball with just their backs and not necessarily have to use their quarterback in that. Do you feel like you have the kind of line and the kind of backs that can just go downhill even against the power conference team this early in the season?
Yeah, I think you know, when we have to run the football. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to like what the defense is in, though, right? Like when you go back and look, like I think I heard a stat. I go back and rewatch last year's games. The TV copies a lot. I don't sleep great, so when I can't sleep, I put those on. We had a young lady that like went on vacation with us to babysit the girls. And she was like, "Why are you watching the Iowa game?" Like she couldn't. She was like, "That seems like a miserable way to spend your vacation." And I'm like, "Yeah, you don't watch the past to shame yourself. You do it to learn, right?" So I watched that a lot, and I think in one of the games they said something like, "Hey, we were one of the most blitzed teams." And it was probably because of the lack of balance in terms of, hey, we were really running the football a ton and not throwing it, so you invited a lot of pressure. So I think the biggest difference for us though now, Sam, is like if you are going to bring a ton of pressure, like we have some runs we like versus that, but we're not going to run the ball into unknown boxes all the time. We can attack that in the passing game, and I think a lot of that's just purely just Dylan, right? Because what's the other way to do it? You go like this, clap, you look to the sideline. What's the call? Oh, it's two. Well, that's kind of an antiquated way to play football now with the headsets and all that. So we have a quarterback that, he can see where we're in. Danny gives him a ton of freedom. We can get to the right play call. But in terms of just moving people, you never know till you get out there. And this will be as formidable a front seven as we're going to see. I mean, the Corleone kid is fantastic. I mean, that's like Dana was talking about. They played him at Houston, and like the first play of the game, he knocked the center back, put him on his back, and the kid didn't play the rest of the year. So I mean, this is a big time football player. The linebackers can run; they're physical, and the scheme is a really difficult scheme. It's a scheme that if you don't go against all the time, can be really hard because the angles. When you play 3-2 and there's a guy behind, like you're zoning this way to go back to a guy this way. It's what we did at Baylor, because it's the way to win in the Big 12 in my mind. So, but I do have a lot of confidence in our offensive line. Growing confidence. We have some really athletic tight ends who are really wideouts. They've got to get in there. They've got to block. You know what I mean? They've got to block these guys. And I think Emmett's had a breakthrough in camp, I believe. I think Emmett's taken a huge step in terms of just lining up and running the football. And I like the other backs.
You talked in your conversation with John Gordon about self-improvement and that journey that you've been on this offseason. How much of that and in what ways is it meant for your players to see and to use as an example in their own lives?
I think one of the ways to connect to this generation of young people is to talk a lot about your imperfections, because they live in a world of perfect. And I said it earlier, it's from a book, Hidden Potential, that I've been reading by Adam Grant, but it's like, it talks about perfectionism, and there's like three things, it says not to be a perfectionist, and basically what it says is like, you don't study your mistakes to shame your past self, you do it to educate your future self. And so I think taking on that growth mindset, that, that white belt mentality, as they say, that there's all these different words of saying it, is really important. And so I think when our coaches all get up and speak, they quite often speak a lot about their failures in their past, because it's really the key for our guys is like, hey, every failure brings you closer to success. So for me, I'm not savvy enough as a podcaster to be thinking like, hey, my player, like I'm honestly in that moment probably talking when I get up here, as I'm sometimes speaking to the team, sometimes, but I just think that's who and what we're going to be. We're still one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten, and so like our D line. Our D line's going to grow into who they are. Who you see next Thursday night better not be who they are in 2 months. And so there's going to be a lot of like, hey, I learned from this, I grow from this, I learn from this, I grow from this. For me, it's unique. Like I have Dana Holgerson on my staff, and he's running the offense. Does he need me in there with him every day? Hey, I think we should know. Now, do I still have to be the head coach and have an overall vision? Yes, but it's even like talking about practice schedules. Even talking about like, hey, what to do this week, having someone that brings truth to power and I really respect has helped me like rethink everything. Like, don't do this because that's what we've done. John Butler's smarter guys I've been around, right? So like talking with him. So I think it's all those things maybe. But every year, Mitch, I go into the team. I say, this is what I think we need to do better, and I always tell the staff, this is what I have to do better. this year. Like, even like even in my relationship with the officials, like, getting on the Big Ten officials has not helped us in 2 years. We haven't got the benefit of the doubt very often, and so it's like, all right, well, maybe we'll take a slightly different tack this year, because I still always want the players. I feel like when the head coach fights for the players or the officials, the players are quiet and they don't say a lot to the officials. Like, if you watch our team, you've never seen a player start arguing with the official. It's always me, but I think, like, I'm always evaluating that. I'm always evaluating the analytics. I'm always evaluating our decision making, right? Like, it's always a conundrum. It might be still the medicine, but I'm in a very honest state right now. Like, here's a very difficult decision for me. I think Archie's going to be an unbelievable pooch punter. So you need to get 4th and 6 at your 48-yard line going in. And if you like your defense, right, 4th and 4, and the analytics say, hey, it's your call. Do you pooch him down there because you say, hey, this unbelievable punter, and when you have the ball inside the 10, usually the defense scores before the offense? Or do you say, hey, I've got Dylan, I put the ball in his hands? And so I've sometimes gone back and forth on those things. And so I think a lot of it is making decisions and then going back and looking at them. So, but I think I try very hard with the team to always be like, hey, guys, I do not have this figured out. I do not have it figured out. And I think that my willingness to do that in my 13th year of this is probably the one thing that connects me to the guys more than anything else, because I wouldn't have done that at Temple. I'd have been like, shut up, I got it figured out, even though deep down inside I was crying on the inside. So
When do you shift that?
I just think it's growth. I think we all just kind of grow, right? Like, I think when I came back to college football, I recognized, as I was watching the young men, especially post-COVID, like, coming into the NFL, I saw a lot of guys that were like, I just thought were like mired in like fear of failure and doubt. And I think that, you read Pete Carroll's book, Win Forever, so he talks about everything he does, preparation, competition, is all to help us go play the way we're capable of and not be beholden to, fear, doubt, fear of failure, fear of what people will say. I tell the guys all the time, like, when I played, like, if I had, I didn't play a ton, but if I made a bad play on the punt team or kickoff return team, I was like, oh, Jay's gonna rip me on Monday when I walk in there. Gosh. And so I was like, all right, well, let's go to the party, guys. I'm gonna get my tail chewed. Now it's like the kids walk in and, like, literally I have to say to them, like, hey, don't go look at your phones at halftime. Don't go look at your phones before you come up and do the thing, because it's just instant feedback and not always real happy is right here. And so it's just a different world. You can't complain about, like, oh, this isn't fair. It's just the other team has to deal with it too. But I think just having a different level of empathy and a different level of understanding. I think it was in that podcast. Was it in this podcast? I said, talk about these questions I ask my son sometimes. Like I read that. Like, and I asked my son, and I hey, what's something I don't understand about your generation? And I did it to my daughters, and it's really, really interesting, the things I hear. So I then take it back to our players, and it all stems from me. Like, my first year at Temple, we went to Idaho and we lost, and I was so freaking pissed. We were 0-4. 0-3, but our guys were walking in. I remember Sharif Finch, who played a long time in the NFL. He was like walking in, and he was kind of like this, and I was like, we're not sheep, we're lions. I'm getting ready to give this, like, you get your heads up. And Bryant was there. And Bryant at the time was, I don't know, he's 20 now. He's probably 8, 7. I don't know the exact year. And Bryant came walking by. He had the exact same demeanor as Sharif, and I was like, don't be the enemy, be the good guy. Like, hey, we'll learn from this. We'll come back. And so I think as a coach, when you have older kids and you start seeing the things your kids deal with, you start extrapolating that back to your players. And so I just think it's a growth process. Maybe I'm maturing. Maybe it's empathy. You have to be careful, though. I also have seen some coaches at my age start to become like too grandfatherly, and then you don't have high expectations. Like, we're going to have high expectations and high standards. But I also want to have a sense of understanding as well.
Matt, you talked to Coach Darlington. I know it was great. And he mentioned that his guys were always expecting to win. Where are your guys at in that, or do you not know until Thursday? Where are you at with that mindset with the team?
Yeah, they had won so much, and you walked into a culture of winning. That's like the difference between, like, winning programs and losing programs, once you get the talent close and all that, a lot of times is that mentality, right? Now, when you're on a winning program, I'm sure Coach Osborne would tell you, like, Coach Paterno would tell us, like, you're always battling, like, expecting to win versus hubris, versus bravado. So there's always, like, this slippery slope that you're balancing, kind of always bringing the guys back down. That's why they say great coaches, like, they water seedlings and they prune overgrown trees, right? Like, when the team's confident, you're kind of constantly bringing them back into this realm of like humble confidence where you respect your opponent, but you don't fear them. You know, that is the place that we're at, right? You know, do you go in expecting to win or hoping to win? And you know, that's our job. It's, you know, it's once you flip that, things flip, for being honest. Now you need players who have that level of expectation. Like Ja'Cory Barney, I can tell you this, Ja'Cory Barney doesn't go in there like nervous, like I don't know if we're gonna win. Like he goes in there expecting to win. I think the biggest piece is like getting guys to stop thinking about winning and start thinking about playing to a standard. Ron always tells a story, Ron Brown, about one of his first years here, and they went and played UCLA, and I think they won the game, but they had 5 turnovers, and he was in the locker room celebrating, and the older coaches, you know, the Milt Tenopers and those guys were like, what are you doing? This is not what we do. It wasn't about winning the football game. It was about the standard level with which we play. Those are the things that we preach. At some point, they have to just go into action, right? So, you know, I'm always very hesitant when people talk about, well, you know, we expected to win, and da-da-da. You know, we sometimes romanticize the things that happened in our past. Like, you know, we all, I don't care who you are. You go out in the field, I'm walking out in the field, there's going to be a knot in my stomach, you know, like, oh, geez, because that's what lets you know it's worth doing. So what lets you know that this is worth, you know, there's a lot on the line here. But I will say this, I think our team's mental, where they are mentally, and the growth they've made is outstanding. I think we have a ton of winners. One of my coaching maxims I'll say all the time is find the winners and get them on the field. Don't find the talented guys, find the winners. I stole that, I think, from like Vince Lombardi, well, for full disclosure, or Newt Rockne, is one of the great coaches. But I do believe that. So like you put a guy like Dylan out there, he always expects to win, and then it's about dealing with the frustration when things aren't going well. You know, I go back, you know, last year, you know, 13-6 against Ohio State. It was like a Baptist revival in the locker room. They were so excited. 13-7 against UCLA, and it was like a morgue. And I know I can't pull them out of that. That's not my job, and that's their job, right? And as crazy as that sounds, I trained them all year to be prepared for hard things. Now I got to trust the training, and so I'm very happy though with where we are. I'm very happy with the way that they've approached things. Like we invited the band out yesterday in the middle of our mock game to start playing, and they were awesome. And like our guys ran over, and they're like dancing and singing, and Ja'Cory's screaming, "Go Big Red!" And then one song's over, and they sprint back to the sideline. They're like, "Wait for the." I was like, "No, keep having fun," you know. So like they're like their minds are right. It's just you gotta get in the games. You got to live with the highs and lows, and you know who are we gonna be when we're down 17 in the fourth quarter? The great teams, they have a smile on their face and they say, "Let's go win the ball game," and that's where we're working towards.
You need some of the Gibson Powell's injury, but what have you seen from Grant Brix and maybe backing up Rafa right now at right guard?
Yeah, Grant's grinding. He's working. You know, he's developing. He's an amazing character. You know, in terms of his integrity. He got hurt at the end of spring and had to have a little summer procedure on his knee. So you know that not limited him, but like he had to overcome that. But yeah, he's in the 2 deep, and he can play tackle. He can play guard. He's big. He's powerful. He's strong. He is another example of exactly what I just said. Just got to get in some ball games, play, and have some confidence because he's got all the tools and all the character to go do it. I'd say the same thing for like Preston, Tamua. Like they both have the talent to do it. They just got to go out and play.
You guys actually, I think in the 2 years you've been here, you haven't faced a lot of running quarterbacks. Not that sorts we can't throw, we can't, but you have to refresh your defense on like the keys when it comes to guys that could, you know, pull it 15 times if they want.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's 2 components to that. Number one, it's the pocket discipline. Like you go back to UCLA last year, like we bring a blitz, we come free, we miss the tackle, and the quarterback from UCLA runs for like 60 yards, right? So those are things we talk about all the time. And I think Dylan's commitment to running, and I talked a little bit about TJ, they see a lot of that. But you know, when you're playing man or you're playing like a match quarters, everyone's back on defense is facing the receivers. They're not looking at quarterbacks. So if he gets out the offense past the D line, so we're always working on what we call level rush, getting to level the quarterback, coming back underneath, red zone, keeping the quarterback in the pocket. So I'd be very disappointed if we don't do that. In college football, what you see very different than the NFL. Some Terry's had to learn is a lot of quarterbacks drop back and then they roll to their right real quick so they can see the field. So we talk a lot about that. It's the other part. It's the speed options, like who has the quarterback, who has the pitch. It's the zone reads, like, hey, we have movement. Who do you have? Those are the things that like they're not seeing a lot from us in practice. And then you get to weeks like this, you have to really be prepared for it. And I think as you look ahead to us, you know, and I'm not looking ahead, but like to your point, there's not like you're sitting here facing 4 or 5 Big 12 spread option team. So it's not, it's just, hey, this is a Cincinnati thing, and it's a credit to Sorsby because like he can RPO you, he can drop back and throw it, he can drop back and run, and then he can do the design run game. So you're seeing the total picture from him.
Hey, Coach, the travel route, how do you go about it for this game? Are there limits? How many guys do you take down Wednesday, and then can you bring the rest of the guys down on
Yeah.
Thursday?
I think it's important for our team. I think one of the things sometimes we do is like we try to make, we make a mistake we can make is try to make everyone feel good. And I do think they have to have a sense of like, hey, here's where I am. Like you need to know like, hey, I'm not on the travel roster or I am, so that you can fight your way back. You can know exactly where you stand. Coaches tell players exactly how they feel about them on game day. How much you play is what he thinks, right? So I wanted us to be unbelievably honest. So what 74 is the Big Ten limit. We'll probably get to like 80, especially with some injuries. And then on game day, we're going to bring down the rest of the team. Now, there's a couple guys like we've been trying to figure out like Bly Hill, Gage Stanger. These guys are on crutches, and I know they want to come, but those guys will come down on the day of the game. Every guy on our team has worked really hard. I'd like them all to be there and have this experience. But we will take down like between 74 and 80 as part of the travel roster. I want this to be this is a business trip. Right? This is a big time, preseason football game. So we got to play at a high level.
With the offensive line, a couple of the guys throughout camp have come in here and talked about their goals to win the Joe Moore Award and all that. How have you sort of seen them approach a chance to maybe announce themselves right out of the gate against a Big 12 defensive line?
Yeah, I want them to have high goals. If you're on an offensive line, you don't win the Joe Moore Award. If you're a punt returner, you don't want to win the Blitnikoff. If you don't want to, not the Blitnikoff, if you don't want to win the Jet Award, if you don't want to, if you're a receiver, you don't want to win the Blitnikoff. Then like, what are you doing, right? You're supposed to have high expectations. To me, it's really about the execution. Ideas are easy. Execution's everything. I get very nervous, from being honest, when they players start talking about like announcing themselves, and that's very much a thing nowadays. It's like, just play well. I want to win the game, but it's not about the score. It's like when I get on that, we're busting down and we're flying back. When I get on that plane and I take the iPad out and I watch the tape, I want to see what I see in practice. You know what I'm saying? I want to see the same technique. I want to see the same attention to detail. I don't want to see guys doing new things. I don't want to see guys coming out wearing a special shirt, a special streamer. It's game day. I got to do it. That's exactly what's wrong. Like the first play is as important as the 50th play. Tuesday practice is as important as the plays on the game because when you start doing other things, But I think we have to play well. It's at the end of the day, like we think we're a good team, so we have to play like a good team. Like, what I'm saying? Like that's my message to the guys. Like, I think we're pretty damn good, so go play good. You're playing an excellent team. Cincinnati's a Power 4 bowl caliber team. Go play well and compete against them, and then you make your biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. But otherwise it's just all hollow words. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we think we're going to be good here, and if we're not good there, but there's a dose of reality that we'll all figure out. Like, hey, we thought we were going to be better at this, better at that, and we'll come back in after this game. That's why I love it being on a Thursday, to be quite honest. And you just start to dissect, hey, where are we moving forward? But really, I've encouraged the guys, like we have 12 one-week missions to attack each mission, attack each game, and not think about the games before, the games after, not think about my personal brand, how I look. Like that stuff's all fine the rest of the day, but on the field, like let's attack it. But I think the one thing I will say for our offensive line is we're having a chance to go against a difficult front and really talented players up front, big, powerful men. And so we're a lighter defensive front. We're a movement, explosive front. We'll be facing 350-pound guys. And so this will be a challenge that we haven't seen, and it'll be good for us as you look ahead to some of the teams that we'll face in the Big Ten as well. I got done. I might as well get done because. What's that?
Oh, you want me to?
No. I was just saying. He said last one. I'll say I got nothing to do.
You had mentioned Peacock, and obviously there's defensive coordinators who have really good systems, and it's just what they do. It feels like Butler is more on the other end of the spectrum, where he can kind of do anything, and maybe you appreciate his ability to be versatile and maybe even exotic in some of his play calls. What have you seen from him? Not necessarily specific play calls. What have you seen from him in the last 9 months that excites you for what may come?
Yeah, I probably still told this story before, but this was a really hard decision for me because I wanted to make the right decision, right? And I was so blessed to have Phil with me for so many years. And then when Phil didn't want to come be the D coordinator here, he wanted to like kind of semi-retire, which we saw how that went. But and Then I hired Tony, and I thought Tony did a great job. But then I thought about, John, and it was like, I remember Sierra coming to me and being like, Coach, I've learned so much football from this guy that I never knew. So it's not just about the tech, it's just the football that I learned. You think about what John had to do last year. Like, he got the job in, like, July and had to learn. And Tony had, like, Tony would go into a game, he might call a defense in a game that we hadn't practiced in 4 weeks. And he just expected you to know it. So now try to coach that position, and you're like, well, we're called auto attack gray. Oh my gosh! And so I thought that John just showed how smart he was. John grew up he's a quarters based guy. That's what they did in Buffalo, and that's not really who I want to be, just from a philosophical perspective. And so he's adjusted, and he's been brilliant in that. So I think he could coach anything. To your point, he was a great. I first met John. He was one of the top special teams coordinators in the country. He was at South Carolina. He was coming up, and he wanted to get out of that world. But I just think he's really, really smart, and he's really, really adaptable. I think the hardest thing probably for him is just adapting to the college game. Who they are as a freshman is not who they are as juniors, and that's not really the NFL. The NFL, like, you are who you are. And so he's just adapting to that, and I think he's done a great job of that.
With the mobility factor, the soybean, and you mentioned TJ being dynamic in that way, are you relying more on him to give you that look in practice of what soybean can be, or is it a mix between him and TJ?
So when we go over, we do like trade, which is like 1s versus 2s. We do 1s versus 3s. So like all those guys get reps. So TJ gets reps. Marcos has had a really good camp. Marcos has excelled. He's made growth as a quarterback. If we get to Marcos in a game, he's going to play well. So Marcos gets reps. Jalen gets reps, and Jalen played safety. He can run too. So all those guys, I think, have done a nice job. We try to break the practice up. So like, hey, we need more balls thrown in this period. Let's make it more of a 7-on-7 period. Hey, we need to work on caging the quarterback. Let's make it a live period. We'll thud the quarterbacks this week. We'll have them in blue jerseys, and we're hitting the quarterbacks. Not Dylan, but like TJ and those guys, they won't get tackled, but they'll get hit. Because I think that is a hard skill to translate from preseason, right? Like, you're in preseason, and you beat somebody clean on the O-line, and you literally like take 2 steps and veer to the left, because you don't want to get yelled at by Coach Braden, and all of a sudden now you got to go in there, you got to hit a quarterback that ducks or whatever. So I think that's always something to keep an eye on. I think in the first couple games, but we'll use all those quarterbacks to get that done. And Luke Longville's a really good athlete too. Luke does a nice job for us over there.
Can you speak to the offseason? I mean, this is a big moment for everybody, and reflect on the extra practices for the bowl games, guys working out on their own, team meetings. I mean, it's just a grueling process, and now we're here.
Well, yeah, I think the bowl game was, I'm hoping that the questions I'm getting at the end of this year, next year, are like, hey, what was the turning point? And I'm hoping that we've turned, right? If it's like, hey, what do we need to do moving forward? I'll be like, I haven't gotten it done. So I'm hoping we say, hey, what was the turning point? And I really believe it was post-portal, the guys going to New York City. As uncomfortable as even that was in terms of like, hey, if we would have gone to a bowl game in Florida or somewhere else where like maybe like the fans would have been everywhere and the families would have been easier for, like, a lot of the families, like, they were staying like an hour away and coming into the city. So it kind of turned into like a sequestered, like, it's just kind of us, an hour bus ride to Fordham, We were reflecting on it yesterday, going to the 9/11 memorial. I've never been more proud of a team because, I remember Ty Robinson. I think he was the only guy alive when 9/11 happened, and that was a very special moment for me. There was people that I knew that had passed away. People that there was a Father Michael Judge who was like really important to Julie and her family when her sister died on TW 800, and like seeing his name was like emotional. So like that was an emotional moment for people like me, and seeing the solemn nature and the respect our players had there and the community, I was like, I like this team. I've said it a couple of times. I didn't always like the team last year. I loved them, but I didn't always like them. It wasn't always a fun day walking in the building. And I loved the team. Susan will remember her telling me, like, being on the sidelines at the bowl game right before they came back. So it was kind of in a moment where we kind of had the game in control. And I remember her saying, Ty and Nash being like, this is so much fun because everyone's here, wants to be here. And so I think that was the turning point, like going up and practicing, on Joe Moglia Field at Fordham and being in the snow. And so I think that was the turning point. Phil he does a speech to the guys. It's like, at a football game, I forget the time. It's like 6 minutes a game that you play, like, and it's like on defense. And he calculated the off season, and it's at least 540 hours of practice and meetings that you put in to be able to go do like 6 minutes of football. and it's just, you know, like a game, and like throughout the year. So there's a lot of investment. What I'm excited about is they've done it. They've worked hard. They've worked really hard this training camp. There's a lot of things that we talked about, belief and confidence, that are the next phase. But even yesterday, there was an issue with a player, and they're like, you know, he was late for the players only meeting. And I was like, what was the player? It wasn't like they came to, like, used to be, most times they're like, hey, Coach Rhule, can we have a players only meeting? Dylan just called, hey, we're having a players only meeting. And so what does that mean? It means that there's an investment, there's a caring factor. You know, when I say it's hard to play here, it's hard, the expectations that we have, I say that in a very proud way. I want the guys to feel pride about what we do. And then when, you know, they talk to Ty or whoever, and they come back and they say we're more prepared than the other guys, I want them to feel that. Now we just have to go and have that pride show up on game day, and by playing well. Anyone else? All right, thank you guys for everything during preseason. Appreciate you guys. See you next Thursday night.